Welcome to this week's edition of NFL Previews and Picks. At Ford Field in Detroit, the Kansas City Chiefs come in to play the Detroit Lions. KC looked totally inept, losing to the Bills last week, and the Lions looked great in their Week 1 victory. Yes, it is only one game, but through the preseason and the first game of the regular season, a pattern has been set for these two teams. Stating the obvious here, but the Lions look great when Matthew Stafford plays. Got to keep him upright. Lions win. At Ralph Wilson Stadium, the Oakland Raiders come in to play the Buffalo Bills, a game between two of the original AFL teams. The Bills showed that they could put up a lot of points in their Week 1 win, while the Raiders used their running game and a record-tying field goal by Sebastian Janikowski to beat AFC foe Denver. The Bills have to be confident after that first win. Get out the hot wings, Buffalo. Bills win. At Minnesota Mall of America Field, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers come in to play the Minnesota Vikings. In their loss to the Lions, Josh Freeman threw for 260 yards, while in their loss, the Vikings' Donovan McNabb threw for 57. Yes, that's right, 57 yards. Wonder if Leslie Frazier still has Brett's number. Good thing Adrian Peterson is still in the backfield. Close game here. I'm thinking last week was an aberration. McNabb is better than that, but the Bucs still win. At the Superdome in New Orleans, the Chicago Bears come in to play the New Orleans Saints. Chicago will be playing without Brian Urlacher, the true heart and soul of their team, due to the death of his mother. Of course, that can work either way. Working for the team, wanting to win one for Brian, or working against them, thinking about their teammate and friend, and not thinking about the game. For the Saints, they played well enough in Week 1 to win most games, but couldn't outscore the Packers. You know Drew Brees, one of the NFL's great citizens, will pass along his condolences to Brian Urlacher, but then try to beat the Saints. And I think that's what happens. The Saints win. At LP Field in Tennessee, the Baltimore Ravens come in to play the Tennessee Titans. The Ravens really put it to their AFC North rival Steelers last week and may be emotionally and physically drained. Good thing they have Ray Lewis to pump them up. Gotta love his passion for the game. Matt Hasselbeck threw 2 touchdowns in his Titans debut, so that's not the problem. Chris Johnson only had 24 yards. I'm guessing that won't happen again, but you know the Ravens will load up the box to stop the run. Could this be an offensive duel between Matt Hasselbeck and Joe Flacco? Speaking of Flacco, did you see his wedding picture? What a goof. Anyway, the Ravens defense is too strong for the Titans offense. Ravens win. At Lucas Oil Stadium in Indianapolis, the Cleveland Browns come in to play the Indianapolis Colts. Bengal rookie quarterback Andy Dalton was injured last week, and journeyman Bruce Gradkowski replaced him. Dalton could be back this week, so that's a good sign. Like I said last week, hand the ball to Peyton Hillis. So there is going to be a Peyton in this game. As for the Colts, this is going to be a very long season unless they can upgrade the play at the quarterback position. Where's Brett's phone number again? Kerry Collins looked just like what he is, a retired player. I'm sure that behind closed doors, those players who supported him are now questioning the move to bring him into camp due to Peyton's injury. Just a hunch. Normally, this would be a no-brainer, but I can't pick the Colts until I see something better than I did last week. Browns win. At MetLife Stadium in East Rutherford, New Jersey, the Jacksonville Jaguars come in to play the New York Jets. I'm sure I'm not the only one, but I'm still shocked that the Jags released David Garrard right before the season. I know it was a money grab, but isn't this supposed to be about winning? Isn't this supposed to be about winning? And Luke McCown is definitely not the answer. Good thing they have Maurice Jones-Drew. As for the Jets, they have a great defense and an adequate offense, but are still too much of a sideshow for me. Rex Ryan is great for the game with his attitude, But is he a great coach? I'm not sure about that one. I sometimes wish he would just shut up and coach, and then maybe I could get a better read on him. You never know. You never hear Bill Belichick talking, even when he is talking. Anyway, while I have my doubts for the long term, I don't for the short term. Mark Sanchez and Darrelle Revis lead the Jets to the win. At Heinz Field in Pittsburgh, the Seattle Seahawks come in to play the Pittsburgh Steelers. You almost have to feel sorry for the Seahawks. I mean, the Steelers are probably chomping at the bit to hit someone after last week's big loss to the Ravens. If the lowly 49ers beat the Seahawks by 2+ touchdowns, imagine what the talent-laden, playoff-tested Steelers will do to them. It might not be pretty, and that's just the way the Steelers like it. Men of Steel win. At FedEx Field in Washington, the Arizona Cardinals come in to play the Washington Redskins. The Redskins looked pretty good last week, beating the Giants by 2 touchdowns. Rex Grossman has some believers now. Tim Hightower will never be confused with John Riggins, but he had a solid game last week. As for the Cards, Kevin Kolb had a solid game last week as well, as did Beanie Wells and Early Doucette. Gotta love those names. Anyway, the Skins looked good enough last week and are still playing at home, so I'm going to stick with them this week. Skins win. At Carolina Bank of America Stadium, the Green Bay Packers come in to play the Carolina Panthers. Just when Cam Newton thought the NFL was pretty easy after last week's record-setting performance, in come the Super Bowl champions to ruin the Panthers' home opener. I am in no way a fan of Aaron Rodgers, but he and the Pack looked pretty unbeatable right now. James Starks has finally given the Pack a running game that they haven't had in a long time. And that defense, unbelievable. Are they good or what? Too much talent and experience on both sides of the ball for the Pack. Green Bay wins. At Candlestick Park in San Francisco, the Dallas Cowboys come in to play the San Francisco 49ers. Did Jerry Jones really need to say that Tony Romo played the best game he has ever seen him play and the Cowboys lost to the Jets? Probably not, but that's Jerry for you. Always sticking his nose in and adding to what is already must be a pressure-filled situation in the Cowboys locker room. I like Tony Romo. He seems like a good guy, and I like his Favrean attitude in that he will try anything to get his team a win. As for San Francisco, the Niners showed that they can score points last week. Of course, they did it against the Seahawks, so I guess that's not saying much. They're going to need every one of those points to beat the Cowboys. Not going to happen. Cowboys win. At Gillette Stadium in Foxborough, Massachusetts, the San Diego Chargers come in to play the New England Patriots. And you thought the Pats-Dolphins game was an aerial show. You ain't seen nothing yet, especially when San Diego has been predicted to challenge teams like the Patriots for AFC supremacy this year. Tom Brady, who actually made a joke about the fans drinking before the game, may need some of those yards he threw for last week in this week's game, and Philip Rivers might take this as a challenge to outduel Brady. The Pats defense looks a little weak right now. Looks like the weak link right now, which is odd in a way. Look for San Diego to take advantage of that. Patriots win, but it should be close. At Sun Life Stadium in Miami, the Houston Texans come in to play the Miami Dolphins. Houston looked unbeatable against the Colts last week, but then again, every team might look that way this year. Chad Henne and the new-look Dolphins offense actually looked pretty good last week, too, and scored enough to win most games. They will need that kind of offense again this week. My thought here is that if the Texans come out of this game with an impressive win, their confidence will be soaring. Much of the same thing for the Dolphins, really. Trouble is, they are not as talented on either side of the ball as the Texans. Texans win. At Invesco Field at Mile High, the Cincinnati Bengals come in to play the Denver Broncos. Even though he was injured in this game, Andy Dalton looks to be back behind center this week. The Bengals put up good numbers last week. The trouble with the Broncos last week was that they could score. While they could score, they could not stop the Raiders from scoring. That's not a problem Tim Tebow can help with. This game looks like it could be a carbon copy of last week's games for both teams. Whomever gets to 28 wins. I'm going with Denver. At the Georgia Dome in Atlanta, the Philadelphia Eagles come in to play the Atlanta Falcons. The return of Michael Vick to Atlanta. Of course, that is really a non-story at this point because he is firmly entrenched in Philadelphia. Atlanta looks to challenge for the NFC this year, but putting up only 12 points last week was not the start they were hoping for. These two teams basically rely on outscoring the opponent to win games. They have similar offenses where they can run the ball, but there's also always the possibility of the big play down the field. Where Michael Vick has Deshaun Jackson and LaShawn McCoy, Matty Ice has Michael Turner and Roddy White. This game could be like the Pats-Charger game. Lots of offense. Philly wins the Battle of the Birds. And finally, on Monday night, the St. Louis Rams go into MetLife Stadium to play the New York Giants. The story of this game could be whether or not Sam Bradford plays for the Rams after injuring his hand in last week's game. Didn't look like much when it happened, so I hope he can play. It would really be my first up-close look at him. His backfield mate, Steven Jackson, may also be out as well. As for the G-men, the key injury looks like Justin Tuck. Hakeem Nicks was hurt in last week's game, but looks to play. I'm giving this game to the Giants, but not by much. And there you have it, the Week 2 edition of NFL Previews and Picks.